The Conservation Commission gives its nod to an NSTAR plan. Piping plovers will soon return, and it's time for rabies clinics on this episode of Barnstable Today. I'm Sarah Colvin. It's Thursday, March 29th, 2012. Utility company NSTAR is working to enhance its electrical service in southeastern Massachusetts. A current project comprising of roughly 18 miles of new transmission line requires construction of a new power substation on Oak Street in Barnstable. NSTAR currently operates a substation on that property. Because of a small wetland area on the site, NSTAR went before the Conservation Commission this week. Mike Howard, a wetland scientist appearing on behalf of NSTAR, explains the project and the current site.
NSTAR is requesting an order of conditions from the Commission to construct a new electric terminal substation in the 100-foot buffer zone to a small isolated vegetated wetland. No wetland alterations are proposed as part of this project. The new terminal substation is an integral part of NSTAR's larger Lower SEMA 345 kV transmission project. Project site is composed of two parcels, both of which are owned by NSTAR. The two parcels total roughly 15 acres in size. The site is currently occupied by NSTAR's existing Oak Street substation facility and overhead transmission lines. Those transmission lines are identified as the lines 120 and 122 that run past the site and through the active maintained transmission line right away. What's also shown on this aerial photo is the small isolated wetland that was delineated by Epsilon Associates. It's roughly 2,600 square feet in surface area. It's situated between the corner of two existing NSTAR access roads. It's comprised nearly entirely of cattails. This is a couple shots of the wetland during the growing season. It's kind of situated in an ATV, existing secondary right-of-way access road. It's largely created from the compacting of the earth and less so from an interception with groundwater. But again, it's dominated primarily with cattails. Seems to function primarily as a sediment trapper from a stormwater water quality function based on its position in the landscape. And again, there's a series of photos in the NOI during the growing season and outside the growing season. Because of its location in an actively maintained transmission line right-of-way, the majority of the 50-foot and 100-foot buffer zones are comprised of early successional low-growth plant species. There's no mature woody vegetation per se, except on the outer fringes of the buffer zone. The site is not located in the 100-year floodplain, and the site is not mapped in estimated habitat, nor are there any vernal pools mapped on or near the site. No tree clearing is proposed in the 50-foot buffer zone, which again is comprised primarily of the access roads and the low-growing early successional vegetation. Other elements associated with the substation work, line number 120, if you look back at the existing condition sheet, it currently runs through the middle of the proposed station location. To facilitate construction of the new substation, we need to temporarily relocate line 120 around the construction zone. NSTAR is going to accomplish that by installing two wood poles, standard transmission poles, 18-inch diameter, along the western edge of the limit of work. One of these poles is located in the 100-foot buffer zone. The poles will be removed upon completion of the project, and line 120 will then connect to the new transformer that's proposed in the substation footprint, where it will then step down to a 115 kV line and leave the substation. The two poles will be installed using a standard drill augering rig.
The area is used at times by all-terrain vehicles, which is a concern of some members of the Conservation Commission. Commission members asked Howard if there was any plan in place to try to curb the use of ATVs near the wetland area.
In terms of that existing isolated wetland, it looks that periodically, and may not be your vehicles, but some other vehicles have been using it as an alternate drive-through. Yeah. And you would be able to discourage that somehow to prevent people from driving through it?
Sure. I mean, we contemplated putting up a barrier around it, but my recommendation to NSTAR was sit tight till we were in front of the Conservation Commission to discuss the planting plan and what the Commission might be thinking. But, through my discussions with Vern, we don't want to drive through that area. I think it's mostly ATVs, if anything.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
Yes.
But And I think what happens is when it gets really wet, the secondary road kind of got created through the upland around it. And then when it's dry, I'm guessing ATVs blow through it again. That's what it looks like to me. But we had that discussion internally, and we're open to suggestions.
Maybe you can work with staff to design something there that will prevent people from blowing through the wetland like that, whether it be strategic placement of boulders or whatever you think is appropriate.
We'd be happy to work with the commission staff on that point.
The Conservation Commission thanked the group for its work in acknowledging the wetland near its planned construction site.
Yeah, I just want to make a fast comment to thank the applicant for knocking on our door to tell us, hey, we have a wetland that's near a site. We kind of responded, are you crazy? It's up on the moraine. You can't have a wetland there. But in fact, we do. So, the applicant really carried this thing to us, and I applaud them for what they've done here.
And I think the benefit to this area, if we can keep the ATVs out of it, will be substantial.
Yeah.
Board members approved the project, but did want to ensure attention would be paid to the matter of all-terrain vehicles.
I've seen some of the degradation up on the Plymouth power lines that ATV riding has had. Extraordinarily damaging. And this substation is going to take up a lot of this area. Would you be able to control the east side? Looks to be the only avenue, east side of your substation. Your road there is the only pass now through this area. Is there any possibility that you can control? I mean, do you grant people right away to ride ATVs everywhere?
No. First of all, there's a misconception, and we run into this with every town. The right-of-ways you're referring to up in Plymouth and so forth are typically easements that we have across private property. We don't have the right to control what happens to someone's private property. We cannot tell them that they cannot have ATVs on their own property.
I'm actually talking about Nature Conservancy land up in Plymouth.
Right, yeah, I know, and that's been a big concern. Natural Heritage has talked to us about that. The DCR has for the state forest. They have the same issue.
Yeah.
The difference between that and this substation site is we own this property.
Exactly.
Okay, so
That's
we
what
have
I'm
more.
hoping for.
We have more control over
Yep.
it. The problem that we have is that, and this gets into some of Mr. Burge's concerns, is that there's also a transmission line right away that runs across the north side of that property, just north of the existing substation. Okay. And that right-of-way has private property owners, and that's where you can get, some of that's owned by DCR, some of that's owned by Conservation Commission,
right.
But people can access it through those properties and get on our access roads and drive their ATVs.
Okay.
It's not an easy thing to control, but we do our best. We're putting up gates and barriers to try to eliminate some of that, but it's hard to catch kids on a dirt bike. I mean, it just is.
Well, thank you for your continued vigilance.
We'll do our best. Like I say, like Mike said, we're going to be changing the access. We're going to be putting a new gate across the front that looks a little nicer and a little more effective, and hopefully that'll cut down on some of it.
Spring is coming, and soon piping plovers and other shorebirds will begin to build nests along Barnstable's beaches. Marine and Environmental Affairs staff are working to prepare the beaches to best accommodate those endangered birds. Fencing has been placed around the shorebird nesting habitat at Kelmus Beach. Temporary fencing will next go up at Douses Beach. Updates on fencing placement and areas inaccessible to human traffic will be posted online at the town's website. Spring rabies clinics are taking place this weekend in several Cape towns, including right here in Barnstable. Vaccinating your pet against the deadly rabies virus is not only a way to protect your pet, it's also required by law. The Cape Cod Rabies Task Force and the Cape Cod Veterinary Medical Association are hosting clinics this year. Pet owners can receive a rabies vaccination for dogs, cats, and ferrets for just $10. In Barnstable, clinics are being held at the Barnstable Animal Hospital on Airport Road from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Saturday, and at the Animal General Veterinary Clinic on Communication Way. Cats can go from 9 to 11. Pet owners can bring dogs from 11 to 2. A clinic is also taking place in neighboring Yarmouth at the Veterinary Associates of Cape Cod on Commonwealth Avenue. With Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Colvin.